Where's the willingness to fight? Like, where's that Corona?
I cannot believe that he actually living without me.
No, we can do it for another 6 years.
We have reached the finale of 90 Day Fiancé The Other Way, and literally everyone is worse off than they started. This is what happens when you do clownery. Your life becomes a circus for no reason. Let's get into it. Hi guys, welcome back to Nikki Faces Reality. We are here to discuss 90 Day Fiancé The Other Way. As I mentioned, it is the finale. Next week we get the reunion. 3 of the couples that I followed this season were covered in this final episode. So I'm going to give you a quick recap of where they are because the reunion looks juicy. Before we get into it, as always, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Let's get started. I'm going to put in the timestamps because I know you guys are probably sick of a few of these. If you need to skip ahead, I got you. Let's start with Corona&INGI really fast. Corona&INGI, things are awkward, but they're trying to make the best of their time. Ingi knows that he's in the hot seat, so he takes her on like a glacier date. Glaciers are beautiful. I can appreciate them. However, the thought of going inside of one sends me into a panic attack because all that I would be able to think is, what if this collapses on me? I'm done. So randomly, there's a chapel inside this glacier. I don't know how many people are getting married in them. But of course, Corona&INGI are seated there and it's awkward because she wants marriage and he could care less about something like that. But she takes the opportunity to tell him, listen, ever since we had that conversation, I don't feel stable in this. And honestly, I haven't let go of my spot at UPenn. I think that I should go take it. I have like 2 weeks to make my deposit. This man, I don't want to judge him because, you know, people are allowed to be different. People are allowed to express themselves differently. But it's the wording that he uses. He's like, yeah, I mean, if marriage is important to you, like, I don't mind being married to you. And I get that for him, it's coming from a good place of, I'm willing to do anything for you. But when he says it that way, it definitely is like a chore. It's definitely like, I'm only doing this because you want. And that's not an ideal way to enter anything. But as they're having this convo of her having to go back home, you know, she's expecting him to like really like fight for her. And he's doing so in his way, but not in the way that she likes. So she's annoyed. She's like, you're as cool as a cucumber, and I'm telling you that I need to go. Like, do you even care? And this has been the running theme, I feel like all season. They emote differently, and I think she has these like unspoken expectations for him. But in like a turn of events, we see that they go like to a hot spring, and in his confessional, he feels like she's not fighting enough for their relationship, that she's just willing to go back home after one fight. And I'm like, are you guys listening to each other? So he has her in this hot springs and he's like really like working up the charm, which feels like whiplash given everything that we've heard him actually say. Like he's looking at her and he's like, I don't want you to go. Like, oh, I don't care for marriage, but you know, I thought that like in a year or so, like it would happen naturally. And Corona's like, but are you saying that just because you know that that's what I want or because you want it? And he says that that's what he wants, but it contradicts everything he's been telling us. And he's been saying it literally in his one-on-one confessions. So I really do think that it's one of those things where he's trying to like get her to stay. He really, like I said, is laying the charm. He's laying the devotion. He's like, I really like, we have something good here. Like, I want you to stay. And you could see her like be receptive to him. And this is probably like the first time in this entire trip that he's matching her energy. And so now she's like, great, he's fighting for me finally, but now I'm confused because I want to, you know, be a smart girl and go after my dreams. And like, it's impossible to go after my dreams in Iceland when everything is in a language that I don't know. But she's looking at his puppy eyes and he's laying it thick. But you guys, I just think it's so funny that he's like, she's just gonna give up that fast when she's been literally telling you her intentions the entire trip. He's like, I love you. I want this to work. I want everything with you. And I honestly think that it's a little too late. Personally, but Corona is torn about this. And I just want to say that I think that what they each want is valid. I just don't think that they're compatible together. I think that they are on different timelines. They want different things. They express themselves differently. They see their future differently, even though they may want each other. No one has to be a villain for it to like fall apart. It looks like in the tell-all, things are not good because she's like flipping him off through the camera. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. Let's move on to James and Tata. James and Tata, you know, we saw them the day after their wedding and he was like, we have no money, we have to go. So we catch them a month after that conversation and he is packing up because he is going to America. But Tata is not joining him. So Tata is, she's acting like a victim in this. She's like, oh, I didn't think that you would leave without me. Girlie, he's been telling you the plan since you got there because you guys started at 0. So he's like, babe, if we don't get it together, like we're gonna have to go back. And he had the conversation with you a month before, like we need to go. And she was like, you can't go. I'm not going either unless you sponsor my sister. But she apparently was in denial about him buying the ticket even after he bought it. And he was giving her some time to like change her mind so that he can book it. And she just refuses because she like wants him to promise that he's gonna bring her sister. That sounds like a you problem, Tata. Like, you can't cry about this when you've been warned. I don't even like James. And James is telling her, he's like, we have no money to sponsor anybody, but also I need to get myself to a place where I can support us. I'm scared of sponsoring Angel actually because she doesn't like me. She's going to cause a rift between us. And your brother warned me not to sponsor her. When other family members warn you about a family member, I would listen. I feel like Tata clearly doesn't have her eyes on the prize. I mean, this is the sister that spread an entire lie about your husband and didn't talk to you for like years. So, and vice versa, you didn't talk to her, but like, I just feel like I understand that you want closeness to home, and I think a better plan would be to come back ever so often, even if it's without James, but to bring your sister into your home, it's gonna implode. And that's what James is trying to tell her, but he's also not trying to fight her too much in this moment because he is depressed. He is in a depression. His wife hates him. He has to break his in-laws' hearts. He's going back home. He doesn't have a job. His parents aren't talking to him. He has a lot to restore, and he just feels alone because Tata is not offering any kind of support. Instead, she's just standing there crying, acting like woe is me, when she was the reason why they got into this mess. Tata's afraid of leaving Indonesia because she's like, I feel like if we leave, we're not gonna come back. I honestly don't think that this girl knows how money works. I really don't. If you want to go back as often, then you need to like work yourself. And I just feel like this energy needs to be directed towards things that you can actually do, like getting your paperwork, getting a job, getting yourself to a place where you feel independent, because a lot of the reasons why she feels homesick is because she feels stuck, because she feels like she can't really navigate their hometown. These people continue to prove that they are trash humans because they let her family think that they were going to Jakarta just to ride the freaking bullet train. So her family has no idea that he's going back to America. James's lame excuse is that he bought the ticket and then was like waiting it out before telling them because he wanted to know if Tata was going to join him. So they're waiting to the day that he leaves to break their hearts. They did not take it well because they are Tata's parents, okay? They're like, you lied. You told us that you would stay here. And they're like weeping. And no one wants to be lied to. No one wants to feel betrayed. But like, we are all adults. We have to adapt to the changes of life. Do you want your son-in-law and your daughter to live off of your hard-earned money for the rest of your days? I honestly think this is the most responsible thing that James could do. But the way that they've gone about it has been trash. James reminds us that he made 3 promises to her parents of which he hasn't kept up with any of them. So he's like, the one that I can actually do is to work on supporting her, and I can't do that when I'm here. And Tata's mom is like, why aren't you going? You need to always be with your husband. And she's like, oh, well, if I go, he's not gonna come back. So if I stay, that way he has to come back for me. Which all of it feels manipulative AF. Like she's not thinking big picture. It's like a child. And it's like my empathy has left my body for her, honestly. I said that the last recap. It's so frustrating that she keeps harping on like the details that like in the grand scheme don't matter. She's just not thinking this through. And if you want to stay in Indonesia, let that man go. Just let him go. Like he's repeated to her many times, let's get ourselves to a place where we are actually prepared to move back here. But she just wants things the way that she wants it because she's not the one working. And that's just so frustrating. And her newest thing is that she's afraid that he's gonna cheat on her. And like, I mean, I don't think anyone is above cheating, so like I understand that fear, but also you are the one that's choosing to be away from your husband. Not saying that you would deserve it if he does it. She just keeps saying stuff that I'm like, girl, like you're causing this rift, you're causing this distance. No one is forcing it upon you. It's her acting like this is happening to her and not something that she has orchestrated that is like annoying, because James is, again, he's James, but even James is like, I have to accept my failures. I have to go and like, you know, really make it up to my family. Like he recognizes that like he messed up in a lot of steps. He clearly hasn't learned from it given the way that he's delivered the news to the in-laws, but he's at least taken that accountability that he keeps messing up. Tata is in La La Land. But when it's finally the day for him to go, we just see him, you know, tearfully hug everybody. She's like, don't go. He eventually gets in the car and she's just sobbing as he drives away. It was just wild to me from day one that they did zero planning. It was just vibes. But they did zero planning to what their day-to-day would be like, how they would make money for real, for real. She literally just got the flight and was like, hubby, you following me? And she just expected him to tag along, and he did. And he was like, oh my God, I'm a bigger idiot than you. So yeah, but it looks like in the tell-all, they're both gonna be in person. So I'm like, maybe she came to her senses. We'll learn more about what's going on, but it also looks like in the teaser that they started the paperwork to get Angel to come here and that she's being a complete monster to them. So more on that next week. Let's move on to the final couple, Joanne and Sean. Joanne, you kind of redeemed yourself. Kinda. We see her FaceTime with her oldest son, Joey, who has been like avoiding her for 4 days. But she's like, so what are your thoughts? She's looking guilty AF. And Joey's like, well, you know, and she asks if Jesse, her little one, has said anything. And he's like, no, he hasn't said anything, no comments. So, and Joanne is immediately like, he's like, oh my God, it's my fault. My son is in a dark place. I honestly feel like Jesse and Joey look like they have a tight bond. I think Jesse has definitely given his piece, but Joey is going to defend his little brother, and he's going to let him speak up for himself. And she asks Joey how he's doing, and Joey's like, listen, I'm in shock. I obviously want you to be happy, but I also want my mom to be close. And you can see he's teary, and then she's able to get out of him that she's like, oh, I see. You don't want to make the decision for me. Girl, your children should have never been in the position where they had to be the deciding factor on how you navigate this. You should have been thinking about them before you made these stupid choices. It is so unfair to be like, I love this man, I want to move here, but only if you approve. And that's what Joey says. He's like, I don't want you to be mad at me if I tell you that I don't want you to go. And she's like, I could never be mad. You guys are my priority. But are they? We've had this discussion. Single moms deserve to be happy. They deserve to do things for themselves. But when you have children that are so young, being a part-time mom and moving to Ireland where you are not accessible to them, it's It is bonkers. But she does a good job in affirming him. She's like, listen, I would never be mad at you and I want to honor your wishes. So like, I don't know what I'm going to do with my husband, but like, I'm coming home to you guys. And Joey, I just felt so bad because like, he just looks like a good kid. Like he wants to say the right things. He wants to let her know how he feels, but he doesn't want to hurt her. And she is their mom after all, so she was able to like gauging from his body language that like they are not okay with this. Now it's time to break the news to her hunk of a husband, right? She goes and he immediately can read her body language and he's like, just say it. And she's like, my younger son, Jesse, has gone mum, and that is very worrisome. I think that I need to go home. And so Sean is like, so what do we do? She needs to go back to her children. And while I think these two are electric, while I think these two are hot together, I honestly don't have empathy for their situation because they were very irresponsible in doing this. I also think that if it was the other way around, Sean wouldn't even think about it. He would go straight to his daughter. I think it's easier to be like, stay with me when you're not the one that's making the physical sacrifice. And he says, he's like, I'm mad at myself and I'm disappointed, but I'm also disappointed that I'm even thinking this way because he recognizes the hypocrisy of it all, that he would never leave his daughter. So like, he understands that like it's hard for her to leave her kids. But they are looking at about 6 years apart or of doing long distance because her youngest is 12. I honestly think that kids don't need their parents at 18. That's just me. But at least at 18, like, they probably have like their own life at that point. Sure, you can move then, but like maybe not, you know? And I think he's realizing that like they may never be okay with this. And at first he's like, well, we're gonna have to do what we have to do. But what I think is more telling is that Sean is like, you know, I don't want you to be gone for too long. That's how people drift apart. And like, you know, how are we gonna sustain this? And everything that he's saying, it's just giving this relationship is conditional, which is awful for a marriage, right? I mean, definitely you should still work to like spice things up, to honor each other, all that stuff. But like sometimes you have to be apart, and you two knew that this was always a possibility because you have kids. But him saying that, I was like, ugh, I don't like that. And Joanne got really serious. And then he took a breath, and out of nowhere he was like, I can't do this for 6 years. And Joanne is operating from a place where like she thinks that she can make everyone happy and that everything is going to be perfect. And she's not being a realist about it. And I think she needs to get to the realist mode because then she'll make a plan that actually works. But until she does that, she's going to disappoint everybody. But yeah, it was wild. He took like a deep breath and he was like, I can't do this for 6 years. So, I mean, I guess we'll know more about them in the tell-all because they are both together in person at the tell-all, which I'm like, okay, so does that mean that he was able to be cleared for a travel visa finally? Because that will be amazing for their relationship if they both can do the traveling as opposed to just her. But it also looks like he's ready to beef with everybody on stage. There was like a clip of him fighting Ingi. Yeah, so I can't wait for the reunion. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And yeah, I will see you next week. Bye.